I always have like maybe 30 seconds to understand what today's subject matter is, and I try to make some title. We have some. I always have like maybe 30 seconds to okay. Yes. And that's how I know I'm live on the YouTube. Okay. So, Srimad Bhagavatam. So Ben had to go to work, and then Tulsi left with Ben. Rats.
They're coming back.
Oh, they're coming back.
Yeah. They went to get some groceries or something for the lunch.
Okay. Tulsi's treating to lunch, so very good. Ben didn't have work today? I thought he had work.
I'm not sure.
Oh, okay.
Tulsi is coming.
Okay.
No, I don't think.
They're not coming back, or
I
they?
don't think Ben had work.
Okay.
Because we were supposed to go to an appointment.
So, okay, Srimad Bhagavatam. So before we begin, we'll do Mangala Charana. So actually, if you want, KG, we just do the Bhagavad Gita Mangala Charana. So if you want, you can scroll. We can all read through it. Everyone here knows it. Do you want to just do it? So. Om Jnanasya Dhyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Vishnu Svavitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Bhagavate Bhagavati Swavadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yudhavarakavam So I want to offer my obeisances unto Swami Srila Prabhupada, from which we all probably entered Krishna consciousness by his auspices, his mercy. And it's through his books that when we're still reading here today, I want to offer my obeisances to all the Gaudiya Guru Varga, up and down, that reached us, including my Diksha Guru and the Shiksha Gurus in my life. And then I want to offer my obeisances to all the Vaishnavas, past, present, and future, and especially the Vaishnavas here today who come to hear Bhagavatam. Like, for instance, Shukadev Goswami and even Sutta Goswami, they spoke Bhagavatam, but just as glorious as them who are speaking were the people coming to listen, and also especially the personalities like Parikrit Maharaj and Shonak Rishi, who are kind of contributing to the Bhagavatam by inspiring the speaker to speak. So everyone is just as glorious in this process of bhakti. So my obeisances to you all. Where we are in the Bhagavatam, just to catch everybody up, we are in the chapter where Vidura comes and enlightens Dhritarashtra and pretty much tells him, you are living a miserable life, especially miserable because even you're subsisting off of the same people you tried to kill and do all kinds of nonsense to. And you're now, this is how degraded material life is, in trying to keep your material position as a king or feeling some royal opulence. You're now pretty much being maintained by the persons who killed your son, especially Bhima, who's regularly belittling you and all kinds of things like this. So it's just really was a terrible situation. But it just shows you actually how intoxicating material life is, that even you could, for the sake of trying to maintain your material life, you can live like a dog in the house of the very person who killed all of your kin, kith and kin, friends and your children. So this was Dhritarashtra's position. And so Vidura, who just got enlightened sufficiently by Maitreya Rishi, and he had heard what Maitreya and Uddhav had heard from Lord Krishna before he left this world. So now he's, really charged up spiritually. So he comes and shatters all of Dhritarashtra's illusions and convinces him to leave this horrible position. And this is, like every pastime in the Bhagavatam will lead you to the same conclusion. And it's the glories of sadhu sangha. Just having like a sadhu come and just shake you up and just make you realize, like, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? So this is every pastime of the Bhagavatam. This is the theme. Over and over again. You'll find sadhu sangha comes, and whatever complex illusion Maya has to offer in each circumstance gets shattered by the sadhu. So this is, get used to this theme, because this is the whole Bhagavatam. So this is very nice. So anyhow, let's just continue. The last verse we read, maybe do the last few. This was really nice, as we talked about yesterday. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna, in the guise of all-devouring time, the Kala Rupa, has now descended on earth to eliminate the envious from the world. So we were talking about the envious nature of us in this world, and especially this desire to compete. We had like a little funny circumstance yesterday where two of the guys had like a little competition, and then the loser had to chant like 64 rounds. That was the it was actually a pretty good competition, because the loser had to do something quite auspicious for their life. But you could see when competing, though, the urge to compete, where is it coming from? There's a reason. Brahmins are instructed not to compete. Actually, they take.
The loser became the winner.
Yeah, the loser becomes the winner. Actually, in that case, so. One of the guys chanted, I think, more than 64 rounds yesterday. And he's the so-called loser, but actually he's the great winner, actually. But, well, yes, so maybe he lost on purpose. This is, but whatever reason, but the competitive urge, it's actually stemming from the asura nature of wanting to be the master, wanting to be the enjoyer. And when that becomes so high, that you become envious when others are trying to maybe usurp your position of being master and enjoyer. And so we see this all the time. Family members are competitive, and friends are competitive, local groups are competitive, and we all try to become the leader of our little group, okay, I can't compete with Bill Gates, but as long as I'm the richest of my friends, no problem. So things like that. But ultimately Kala will destroy that, everything. And it's the purpose of the Kala Rupa, how Krishna destroys, is specifically because we have this original seed of envy. And that's why we come to the material world, because ultimately it stems to us being envious of Krishna. Due to that nature of, instead of wanting to serve the factual master and enjoyer, We want to be the master and enjoyer, so this world is just for us. So this was really nice because we got to kind of explore with this idea of, okay, why? Why are we here in this world? What is the root problem? And what is this really deep anartha that needs to be removed in us in order for us to actually have a chance towards pure bhakti? So this is nice. Bhagavatam brought this out. Then he said, the Lord has already performed his duties to help the demigods, and he's awaiting the rest. You Pandavas may wait as long as the Lord is here on earth. So Vidura is now, not Vidura, Narada. Narada's now, where we're at now is Yudhishthira was lamenting that all of them left, Dhritarashtra left, Vidura left, and Gandhari left. So he's lamenting, and Narada's giving him this high philosophy, thinking like, why do you think that they're dependent on you? Nobody's dependent. What's that? What? Gandhari also left, yes. And I think Kunti will leave too. What's that? She left, they didn't leave the world yet. Actually, I think these verses now that's going to tell what they did. But they left for the Himalayas, and they're going to do penance and austerity, and then they'll leave. Gandhari as well, yes. The wife of Dhritarashtra. So Vidura came, and he came just for Dhritarashtra, but because Dhritarashtra left, because Gandhari always followed the Sri Dharma very nicely. As soon as wherever the husband went, she went to go assist. Yeah. So she went with him. Then they're going to do...
Oh, this is when Dhritarashtra already left.
He left the palace of Yudhishthira, yes. And then now he didn't leave the world yet. He's just about to do his penance. So actually I think today that's what we'll talk about. But so he says, O king, your uncle Dhritarashtra, his brother Vidura, and his wife Gandhari have gone to the southern side of the Himalaya mountains, where there are shelter... Oh, actually, no, that's what we're supposed to read today. But he's also keying them in. He's giving a hint to them. Vidura withheld the destruction of the Yadu dynasty. And Narada is also withholding the destruction of the Yadu dynasty. But when it comes to pass, they will realize that Krishna has left the world and now they have to leave. That's what happened. So Vidura also, in order for Vidura to come, what had to happen is the Yadu dynasty had to get destroyed. Then if you remember, Krishna had to instruct Uddhav in the Uddhav Gita. And then Vidura had to approach Uddhav, wanting to be enlightened by Uddhav after it happened. And then, but Uddhav, he said, you're my senior. It's not really proper that I, become your guru. Even though he's very qualified to be his guru. But because of that position, he just felt awkward. So he said, you just go. Maitreya Rishi also heard. So go to Maitreya. So then Maitreya enlightens Vidura. And then Vidura is now got enlightened, and he's come back. He's ready to, he's understanding the gravity of Kali Yuga coming in, and he comes back just for Dhritarashtra. So that's kind of where we are. So let's continue reading. Dhritarashtra saha bratra Gandharya cha svabharyaya Dakshinena himavata Rishinam ashramangataha Dhritarashtra saha, along with Bratra, his brother Vidura, Gandhari also, Cha, and Swabharyaya, his own wife, Dakshinena, by the southern side, Himavata, of the Himalaya mountains, Rishinam, of the rishis, Ashramam, in shelter, Gata, he is gone. O king, your uncle Dhritarashtra, his brother Vidura, and his wife Gandhari have gone to the southern side of the Himalaya mountains, where there are shelters of the great sages. Purport. To pacify the mourning Maharaj Yudhishthira, Narada first of all spoke from the philosophical point of view, and then he began to describe the future movements of his uncle, which he could see by his foreseeing powers, and thus began to describe as follows. So first he gave nice philosophy, and now the philosophy in the essence was, no one could be he was not dependent on you. You cannot actually protect anyone. Who can protect anyone with this perishable material body? Only the Supreme Lord is the ultimate protector. So that was kind of the themes that were already described by Narada the past few sections we studied. So now he's telling what's going to happen in the future. Shrotobi saptabir yavai Svarduni saptadha vyadha Saptanang pritaye nana Saptashrota prachakshate Shrotobi by currents Saptabi by 7 divisions Ya the river Vai certainly Svarduni the sacred Ganges Saptada 7 branches Vyadat created Saptanam of the 7 Pritaye for the satisfaction of Nana various Saptashrota 7 sources Prachakshate known by name. The place is called Saptashrota, divided by 7. That's what it means. Because there the waters of the sacred Ganges were divided into 7 branches. This was done for the satisfaction of the 7 great rishis. So that's where they're going to practice.
Similar to our oceans.
Oh, I don't know. But yeah, apparently there's a spot. Maybe you guys know in this the Saptashrota place. You guys know? You've heard of it? So apparently there's a place where the Ganges divides in 7, and that's where they did the penance in the Himalayan mountains. So, Snatvanu savanang tasmin Utva chagnin yathavidhi Abhaksha upashantatma Sa aste vigatai shanaha Snatva by taking bath Anu savanam regularly 3 times. So morning, noon, and evening. Tasmin in that Ganges divided into 7. Hutva by performing the Agnihotra sacrifice. Cha also Agnin in the fire. Yathavidhi just according to the tenets of the scripture. Abhaksha fasting by drinking only water. Upashanta completely controlled. Atma the gross senses and the subtle mind. Saha Tutarastra Aste would be situated. Vigata devoid of. Eshanaha thoughts in relation with family welfare. On the banks at Saptashrota, Dhritarashtra is now engaged in beginning Ashtanga Yoga by bathing 3 times daily in the morning, noon, and evening, by performing the Agnihotra sacrifice with fire, and by drinking only water. This helps one control the mind and the senses and frees one completely from thoughts of familial affection. It's very interesting. Purport. The yoga system is a mechanical way to control the senses and the mind and divert them from matter to spirit. The preliminary processes are the sitting posture, meditation, spiritual thoughts, manipulation of air passing within the body, and gradual situation in trance facing the absolute person, Paramatma. You've heard of all this before, these 8 limbs of Ashtanga Yoga, starting with Yama and Yama. Actually, you know them if you study Nectar of Instruction. What's that? Well, Bhagavad Gita is also giving all of them. In Nectar of Instruction, the first 2 recommendations of maybe even the first 3, because it's all about controlling the senses. But the first 2, the text 2 and 3, which give the niyamas and the yamas, the things you shouldn't do, and the niyamas, the things you should do, are actually taken from the Hatha Yoga Pradipika Rupa Goswami took, and then also made sure that bhakti was the emphasis. So this is these are all coming from the Ashtanga Yoga text. Actually, even in our japa chanting process and a lot of our process, before we can really begin bhakti, a lot of this sattvic, we have to come across this material modes of nature via tamas and rajas. And so in order to do that, we have to actually be able to sit down and meditate and chant nicely and come to that kind of, to test the Shakti situation Or instead of going out into the world and trying to, engage our mind and senses out in the world, we're trying to have an internal process. And that's where bhakti and that's where Krishna ultimately is. So this is actually even relevant to us as well. So let's see what he says. So the manipulation of air passing within the body in gradual situation in trance, facing the absolute person, the Paramatma, so Lord in the heart. Such mechanical ways of rising to the spiritual platform prescribe some regulative principles of taking bath daily 3 times. Also even, in Brahmin Diksha, you're also supposed to do this before chanting Gayatris and so many things. Fasting as far as possible. This is not necessary, but, like Akadashi, regularly fasting, on the Lord's appearance days, regularly fasting. Even like, a lot of sannyasis and Brahmins who are practicing a lot, all by the, they would even only take their meal once a day and be fasting most of the day and things like that. So this is there. Sitting and concentrating the mind on spiritual matters and thus gradually becoming free from vishaya or material objectives. Material existence means to be absorbed in the material objective, which is simply illusory. House, country, family, society, children, property, and business are some of the material coverings of the spirit, Atma. And the yoga system helps one to become free from all these illusory thoughts and gradually turn towards the absolute person, Paramatma. You've probably noticed when you sit to chant sometimes, but sometimes you have so many things swirling in the mind, it's really difficult to chant. I find, for me, I can chant at certain portions of the day, but then all of a sudden, once all the house, the country, the family, all my responsibilities come, at that time of the day, I can't sit to chant anymore. It's very difficult. Why? Because this actually is a level of covering that I have, a level of covering that is covering my spirit. So ultimately, we have to we have to train ourselves to detach from these things, but it takes time. It's a process. So there is a mechanical process to do that. There's certain mechanical things you could do. That's why, the yogis would do pranayama. And that's why Rupa Goswami even gave us this second and third verse of the Nectar of Instruction, so that we can, mechanically, we don't eat too much. We don't over-endeavor this thing. We avoid prajalpa. We avoid, non-worldly association. We avoid practicing niyamagraha, right? Where we have an inappropriate understanding of the scripture or neglect the scripture altogether. So he's teaching us some of these mechanical processes so that we can come to the spiritual platform. But, ultimately, and Krishna says this in the Uddhav Gita, you can get this knowledge of all these things, but ultimately, once you use the axe of jnana to cut yourself from the material world, then you throw away the axe. So you then actually don't focus on these things, so these mechanical processes. The actual bhakti process is what you take with you to the end. But these mechanical processes have actually some benefit. They have a lot of benefit, actually, when you're sitting to chant japa, even when you're trying to, schedule a regulative life. They have their benefit. But ultimately, this isn't what it's all about. Like, it's not like Krishna and all of his friends, they sit down and do pranayama and they, are doing all these mechanical processes. It's not like they're eating only once a day. It's not none of that in the spiritual world is actually relative. Yes.
You say that, it just made me think, but they had to do, it said that they had to do so much, they had to achieve so much punya to actually be in their position.
Yeah. Well, it depends. The sadhaka siddhas, it means those who had reached perfection through sadhana, yes, that's what they had to do. But the nitya siddhas, they're always with Krishna playing. They have no need to do any of that, actually. So, but yes, absolutely. And for us, we should pay attention. The way Bhagavatam starts this way. It starts with the very, very basic things that are going to be important. Hello. Oh, the boys are back. Okay, good. We can. Ben, you didn't have work this morning.
No, we went to get stuff for food.
Okay. So, all right, good. So, talking about yoga now. So material existence means to be absorbed. We talked about the material objectives, which are house, country, family, society, children, property. And the yoga systems are helping us steady the mind and overcome these coverings and reach the platform of spirit or Atma. So the yoga system helps one become free in all these ways. And you can actually, who are you approaching in the yoga system? The Paramatma, the soul within, the supreme soul within. So, by material association and education, we learn simply to concentrate on flimsy things. But yoga is the process of forgetting them altogether. Modern so-called yogis and yoga systems manifest some magical feats, and ignorant persons are attracted by such false things. Or they accept the yoga system as a cheap healing process for diseases of the gross body. I was really into that. I was really into all this yoga system. Like, I want to have a nice body and these things and heal my traumas and, even get mystic cities, the Ashta cities, the 8 different mystic perfections that you can get are very attractive to me. I used to get up early and I would go outside in the sun and I would make sure I had bare feet and ground my feet in the earth, and then I would stare into the sun. And then you can actually, it like awakens, if you know how, it awakens your pineal gland and it gives you like kind of, what's that? Yeah, it's not possible in Syracuse. I stopped doing that actually, definitely in Syracuse. But I used to do these yogi things. Why? Because they give you like, different psychic abilities and things like that. I was very attracted to this. But anyhow, this is not the whole point of yoga. The whole point of yoga is to cut detachment that the mind is focusing on, that are creating anarthas ultimately, and not allowing us to fully approach the spiritual platform. And then the pinnacle of that is bhakti. So even though those same things will destroy bhakti, that's why the Rupa Goswami is giving these yogic yama processes. You have to avoid these things. And then you have to do these things, yamas, or niyamas. You have to do like this. So this is ultimately, this is Vaidhi Bhakti. It's very important. So, where are we? So the modern so-called yogis. But factually, the yoga system is a process of learning to forget what we have acquired throughout the struggle for existence. So we have to, in our existence, we have to learn to forget what we've picked up here. We've learned so many nonsense educations here, and so yes, this is very important. This is very important. But yoga is actually learning how to forget that nonsense. So this is actually very important. Dhritarashtra was all along engaged in improving family affairs by raising the standard of living of his sons, or by usurping the property of the Pandavas for the sake of his own sons. These are common affairs for a man grossly materialistic and without knowledge of the spiritual force. In like climbing the corporate ladder or something, making all these endeavors to secure your position in the material world, and sometimes stepping over someone else and this, that, and the other thing. This ultimately all has to be unlearned. And it's a waste of time, actually, utterly. He does not see how this can drag one from heaven to hell. By the grace of his younger brother Vidura, Dhritarashtra was enlightened and could see his grossly illusory engagements. And by such enlightenment, he was able to leave home for spiritual realization. Sri Narada Dev was just foretelling the way of his spiritual progress in a place which was sanctified by the flow of the celestial Ganges. Drinking water only without solid food is also considered fasting. This is necessary for advancement of spiritual knowledge. A foolish man wants to be a cheap yogi without observing the regulative principles. A man who has no control over the tongue at first can hardly become a yogi. Yogi and bogi are 2 opposite terms. The bogi, or the merry man, who eats and drinks cannot be a yogi, for a yogi is never allowed to eat and drink unrestrictedly. We may note with profit how Dhritarashtra began his yoga system by drinking water only and sitting calmly in a place with a spiritual atmosphere, deeply absorbed in the thoughts of Lord Hari, the personality of Godhead. This is one of the rare times where you see Prabhupada recommend fasting. But actually fasting is very, very good in pretty much allowing you to control the senses, especially, that's why, the Vaishnavas on Ekadashi, they would take it very seriously. Because actually what's this doing is every 2 weeks, this is allowing yourself, it's a day to worship Lord Hari, but in order to do that, you completely restrict your senses, and any type of material accumulation that you picked up in those 2 weeks before the past Ekadashi can be removed now, because you're re-establishing yourself in yoga. But if what's that? Yeah, it's really a spiritual recovery, but at the same time, it's not just about that mechanical process. The main thing is to cultivate devotion. It's not just like, all right, well, let me fast and then go do a bunch of material activities instead. So these are very important things. Oftentimes when people begin a spiritual endeavor, they may fast. So, you can pick a holy day, you can pick, a lot of people, like for Janmashtami, they get, what's that? Oh, like for Janmashtami, they can get very serious again. They might not have, reached out to Krishna at all for like a whole year, but then all of a sudden they remember Krishna's birthday and then they fast and, they do all kinds of seva and things like this. But ultimately, the goal is we're all to be yogis, a bhakti yogi. We're to be yogis every day if we can. But this is teaching us how, when we really get out of balance and we go off into the material nonsense and we just stay situated there. Prabhupada's kind of, these are flimsy things. We cannot get caught up in these things, actually. We do them to survive, and that should be the main thing. Keep body and soul together. But other than that, once body and soul is together, no more, no less. Just do exactly what's necessary. But we get so caught up. And how does this happen? Actually, is through bad association. When you have bad association, it's a guarantee. That's why the yamas and niyamas Rupa Goswami is giving from the Hatha Yoga Pradipika. One of the yamas is you have to never associate with worldly persons. And then one of the niyamas is only associate with devotees. It's the same instruction, but there's a reason it's there, because if you don't, you will get caught up in worldly things, and then you will lose the ability to practice yoga. So this is very, very, very important. Yoga is the process of approaching spirituality. So you can measure in your life, where am I losing my yoga? Where am I losing? What activities are making me lose yoga? Yes, well, there's no chance of Krishna without even first coming to the yoga is helping you come just to the first beginning, Shanta Rati. Just the ability to even appreciate spirit or Brahman. You can't even be, a Brahmavadi without yoga. You can't even be a Paramatmavadi anything. So what's to speak? No Krishna is coming. No chance of Krishna if you can't even get the first thing down. So, anyhow, this is very good. Want to do the next verse? Maybe one more verse we do? Hey, Abhiram. Jita sano jita shvasaha pratyahrita sharindriyaha hari bhavanaya dvasta rajasattva tamo malaha jita asana, one who has controlled the sitting posture. Jita shwasaha, one who has controlled the breathing process. Pratyahrita, turning back. Shat, 6. Indriya, senses. Hari, the absolute personality of Godhead. Bhavanaya, absorbed in. Dvasta, conquered. Raja, passion. Sattva, goodness. Tama, ignorance. Mala, contaminations. So one who has controlled the sitting posture, the yogic asanas, and the breathing process can turn the senses towards the absolute personality of Godhead and thus become immune to the contaminations of the modes of material nature, namely mundane goodness, passion, and ignorance. Prabhupada is saying, the preliminary activities of the way of yoga are asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dhyana, dharana, etc. Pranayama is regulating the pran, regulating the internal energy or the life airs. Pratyahara is turning the senses inward. Dhyana is having like meditation, which comes from dharana, which is deep concentration. So they build off of each other. So once the senses go inward, you can actually do dharana. Dharana means to concentrate. So when you're able to concentrate, I think the number is like 13 seconds. When you can concentrate on something for 13 seconds, this is called meditation on the subject matter. So even when we're chanting our Maha Mantras, if we can't concentrate on the Maha Mantra for 13 seconds or so, then we're not actually getting to meditate on the Maha Mantra. This is also right. In the Gayatri mantras and all these processes, you're supposed to be able to meditate on these things. So anyway, this is kind of the mechanical process on how to do that. Where in the bhakti process, they're so advanced in their meditation that they're completely active in relation to the Lord, but they're so fixed in meditation, one-pointed on Krishna ultimately, and depending on the relationship. But we have no chance of this if we can't get rid of the mental, what is they called, the chitti vrittis, the chitta vrittis. Unless we can get rid of these mental fluctuations that are distracting us, then we really won't get an opportunity to practice bhakti. We'll practice what looks like bhakti abhas, but in order to do uttam bhakti, you have to be free from these material contaminations, of karma, jnana, renunciation, and so on. These things. So anyhow, Maharaj Dhritarashtra was to attain success in these preliminary actions because he was seated in a sanctified place and was concentrating upon one objective, namely the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari. Thus, all his senses were being engaged in the service of the Lord. This process directly helps the devotee to get freedom from the contaminations of the three material modes of nature. Even the highest mode, the material mode of goodness, is also a cause of material bondage. That's like being attracted to, like, say, a sattvic or a brahminical life. You can get very attracted to, I want to be a Paka Brahmin, I want a Paka, But ultimately, if the reason you would do that would to lead you to focus on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari. There's so many scriptural injunctions where, someone who's in a Chandala phase of life, if they have devotion, but someone in a Brahmin phase of life has no devotion, the Chandala is infinitely better than him. So this is ultimately, this is what we're really looking for. And the Brahmin things can help, but they have to ultimately be given up, So thus all his senses were being engaged in the service of the Lord. This process directly helps the devotee to get freedom from the contaminations of the three modes of nature. Even the highest mode, the material modes of goodness, is also a cause of material bondage, and what to speak of the other qualities, namely passion and ignorance. Passion and ignorance increase the material propensities of hankering for material enjoyment, and a strong sense of lust provokes the accumulation of wealth and power. One who has conquered these two base mentalities and has raised himself to the platform of goodness, which is full of knowledge and morality, cannot also control the senses, namely the eyes, the tongue, the nose, the ear, and touch. But one who has surrendered himself unto the lotus feet of Lord Hari, as above mentioned, can transcend all influences of the modes of material nature, and be fixed in the service of the Lord. The Bhakti Yoga process, therefore, directly applies the senses to the loving service of the Lord. So even if you do all these things, but you don't have the Lord as your objective, you have no chance, actually. So the Lord ultimately has to be the objective of how you're engaging your senses, how you're controlling your going outwards and bringing it into the Lord. But unless you're able to, be approaching the Lord, then ultimately you'll have no success. And whatever success you do have, you'll get a material obstacle, an anartha. So you'll get caught up on the yogic cities, because, like even this happened in the Christian, Jesus went to the wilderness. And in the wilderness, he had to battle with Satan. And so when Satan approached him, he was deep in prayer and meditation. And when Satan approached him, Satan started tempting him and giving him all the, I'll give you this, 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 and this. And then Jesus had to every time reject Satan's temptations over and over again. Actually, this can happen in your life, in your, your yoga process, even your so-called bhakti yoga process. You can be practicing, and then all of a sudden you get the temptation for, here, you want this material thing? And then you go, oh, yes, yes, yes. And then this is, fail. Why? Because it wasn't really bhakti. There's a test. There's a very narrow gate you can actually enter bhakti in. It's very, very rare that someone takes it. Because and on the way, we get distracted. Just something, one material thing. All it takes is one material thing. It might be a pretty lady. It might be a good opportunity for wealth. It might be a good opportunity to be well bodily situated so you can advance materially. It's just something, But anyhow, unless one takes to bhakti yoga, then you won't be able to fully control the senses. So unless the Lord is your goal, the prayojan, the goal is the Lord, then ultimately you will fall. So this is the guarantee. So this prohibits the performer from engaging in material activities. This process of turning the senses from material attachment to the loving transcendental service of the Lord is called pratyahara. And the very process is called pranayama, ultimately ending in samadhi, or absorption in pleasing the Supreme Lord Hari by all means. So these are kind of the mechanics of what's happening. By just practicing bhakti, genuinely practicing bhakti, all of them will happen automatically. So the main emphasis is you have to, before you sit down and try and chant, before you sit down and try and do anything, even in your archana, your worship, singing bhajans and so-called, you have to, if we're a little bit more thoughtful, we might say, well, why am I actually doing this? Am I doing this, because Lord, Hare Krishna, please save me from my material miseries. We could be doing like that, or ideally we're chanting Hare Krishna, Lord, I want you, please, I'm calling to you, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. We're calling to Radha and Krishna in actually wanting, but it is a process, and actually, what you'll see here is how is Dhritarashtra engaged? How did he get there? What was how? Sadhu Sangha, right? Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Shastra Hai, Labha Matra Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Siddhi Hai. So unless you have Sadhu Sangha, all the scriptures say, even a moment's association of Sadhu Sangha will give Sarva Siddhi, complete perfection. Good morning, Raj. Cool. Feel free if we're ever doing anything, just walk right through us. No problem. Yes, no problem. So if you want, and it's saying Sarva Siddhi Hai, you'll get complete perfection only through this way. So this is how Dhritarashtra, you see, he's engaged nicely now. But first he had to get Vidura. Even Vidura became engaged nicely. He had to get Uddhava and Maitreya. And then even Maitreya, in order to get situated nicely, he had to have Krishna himself, like this. You need sadhu sangha. So this is very important. But once you get sadhu sangha, they will help situate you. So you'll get off kilter, maybe you'll stray here and there, but then the sadhus in your life say, no, what are you doing? Nonsense. This is completely nonsense. Practice yoga, be a yogi. Stop trying to be a bogi, an enjoyer. This is what bogi. Actually, they have like a saying. It has to do. Have you ever heard this? How many times one passes stool? You've heard of this? If you pass stool once in the day, you're said to be a yogi. If you pass stool twice in the day, you're said to be a bogi. And if you pass stool 3 times a day, and you're said to be a rogi, or like a diseased person. So they have this is like a little measuring stick in your life. If you're passing stool constantly, it's the disease. But even if you're passing stool twice, it's said to be the symptom of a bogi, or like too much enjoyment. This too much movements means too much enjoyment is coming in, like this. And so
there's some
what's that?
Some that are passing stool right before Prashad. So they can have more.
Oh gosh. Yes, this well, if it's so frequent, it'll eventually lead to disease. But yes, you can. But it's a good actually. You can. Yeah, absolutely. This is like Vedic, So if you Prabhupada did talk about this. That one should, you should only have to pass once a day, and you should adjust your eating so that you're only passing once a day. So if you're passing, say, twice a day, you just fast a little bit longer, and then eventually you'll go back down to once a day, and then some chance of yogi. You could be like in the yogi position again, and then like this. So you can just adjust. So you can always actually, if you say you're really out of whack, you see Dhritarashtra did. He was really far out of whack. He had to sat down and he had to fast and do austerity. So similarly, we have days for this. We have a Kadashi every 2 weeks, a chance to be a yogi again. Every 2 weeks, no matter how far gone you went, in 2 weeks' time, you just sit down and you can be a yogi again, and you can fast, or maybe half day fast or full day fast, whatever. So this is actually. This is part of the process. And this is a mechanical thing we all can do to just recalibrate. Like, okay, you'll see, because if you're not situated like this, the mind, the chitta vrittis will be so strong. You'll sit and try and chant, you'll sit and try and meditate and like this, but it's pulling you here and there and here and there. And it's, and all that's doing is just namaparad. We're having now namaparad because offensive chanting, mainly with material attachments and so on. Because we're just, we're not situated as yogis right now. We're not situated in the position to actually, practice bhakti. So, Dhritarashtra is actually, he's our guru right now. He's telling. Well, he's not he. The Bhagavatam is telling, and he's leading by example. Become a yogi. Recalibrate. Reset. Reset the system. And even now we have even the little litmus test with the passing of stool. You have, okay, too much. I'm off into, my wife will be embarrassed if I say, but we're always joking like this, like, oh, were you a bogey today, or were you a bogey today? Because sometimes if we, if we get a little off kilter, we can go into the bogey stage. So you have to reset. So anyway, this is one litmus test. But ultimately, you have to understand your goal. This is samadhi, or absorption, in pleasing the Supreme Lord Hari by all means. So you have to remember, right? Anyabhilashita shunyam. This is also any anyabhilashita, unless you have any material desires, then automatically your chanting is namaparad. It's just any material desires, you're chanting namaparad. So this is, what is that? Yes. So all we are doing is chanting namaparad. So we must, in order to practice bhakti, pure bhakti, right? Anyabhilashita shunyam. We have to be devoid of them. Karma jnana dhrinavrtam. Jnana karma dhyanavritam. Thank you, Madhav. Jnana karma dhyanavritam. So any desires for knowledge, any desires for karma, any fruitive thing in the world. And adi is like even mysticism and yoga and renunciation, or even Brahmanism. Dhyanavritam, if you're covered by any of them, this is a big problem. And then, but what is pure bhakti? Anukulyena Krishnanushilanam. So favorable activities towards Krishna. Favorable activities towards Krishna. Anukulyena Krishnanushilanam Bhaktir Uttama. This is Uttam Bhakti. This is pure bhakti. So this is ultimately what we have to do. And, if we are so absorbed in karma, we're so absorbed in jnana, we're so absorbed in guess what? If you're chanting namaparad, guess what you're absorbed in? Something. One of those things. Karma, jnana. Yes, someone. Maya, that's all in the realm of Maya. Karma, jnana, and even a yogic perfection and mysticism. If you have that in your life, which, guess what? It's very likely we all have that in our life. We have to, one, if we can seek sadhu sangha to get readjusted, but then also the sadhus will give us practices on how to really focus on what we chant, how to really do things, how to practice bhakti on the pure level, So we have to take what we can get, but ultimately, when we're not, essentially, because we're all chanting namaparad almost entirely. Because even Namabas, you'll have darshan of Krishna at Namabas. You believe? At Namabas, Krishna will reveal himself to you at some level, if you're chanting Namabas, meaning that there's no longer any offenses there, and now you're chanting, not yet pure Nam, but you're chanting just without any offenses at all. And Krishna will actually appear and give darshan, and that's at the niche, the stage, or but still, we have to somehow seek the sadhu sangha that can help us overcome these anarthas, and then also take the practices. They're giving practices. They'll give, how to chant properly, how to focus on what you need to focus on when chanting, and so on. So there's all kinds of things like this. What to study, and so on, and how to regiment your life so you can gradually remove these anarthas. And these anarthas are ultimately, they're the things holding us back. All of our anarthas are, these are unwanted things. That's what anartha is. Artha is wealth. Anartha is that which has no wealth. So we have all these unwanted things. And ultimately, they're what we want instead of the Lord. It's not allowing us to practice bhakti. So this is the whole anartha nivritti stage. We want things other than bhakti. So karma, jnana, renunciation, yoga, mysticism, all these things. We want, whatever it is, we want something other than bhakti. But if somehow or other we get sadhu sangha, and the sadhus make us realize, no, bhakti is the topmost thing. Sarva shastra kai, all the scriptures, are saying like this. And, if you want sarva siddhi, you want complete perfection, you must, associate with sadhus. Regularly hear from the sadhus. And then slowly you'll be loosened. You'll be loosened from your attraction towards the unvaluable things. So that's why, there's only so much we can do from our limited position here. But, that's why, if anything might help anybody, here we tell them, come to the class. And chanting will be great for them. It's good to chant, especially even Namaparad, it's good to chant. It's better to chant Namaparad than no chanting. It's not like, I'm chanting Namaparad, so yeah, I shouldn't chant. It's just not worth it. No, you keep chanting. Just keep chanting. It's the best thing for you. Even Namaparad is giving all kinds of benefits.
Not the 8th instruction. No, the 7th instruction.
The Karma Kanda one?
No. Siyat Krishna Nama Charitapi Sitapi Avidya.
Yeah.
The chanting is like the cure.
Yes. Of the nectar of instruction. Yeah. Yes. The chanting is ultimately the cure to your disease, and the chanting is what will attract you to get sadhu sangha. And then the sadhus who are doing pure chanting, they'll shake you. What are you doing? Get out of this. What is this nonsense you are doing? And then when they shake you, oh yes, and then you can work on it. You can start working on these things, and you're not pure chanting. You remove some anarthas, some layers of anarthas. Many of us were so far covered, but we must go through this process. If we don't, we will be bound by the material modes, and we'll stay miserable in this material world, lifetime after lifetime. But we all have opportunity. We've all met sadhus. I was here when we all met some sadhus this year. We have many sadhus are coming. We have more sadhus coming. This Wednesday we have Mukunda Prabhu coming. What's that? It's Tuesday. Yes, I think his program is Wednesday, main program. But this Tuesday Mukunda Prabhu is coming, so come around. Be around sadhu, hear from the sadhu. There's so many things that are important. We get it. But what's really important? How are you prioritizing that you are a yogi in life? And sadhu sangha is the only way you can actually be a bhakti yogi. And so bhakti is the real yoga here. The topmost thing. Everything else, you'll get caught in an artha nivritti. You'll get distracted. But bhakti is the only thing that can take you all the way to the spiritual realm. So we have to prioritize these things. How can we hear from sadhus? How can we take their instructions? And how can we, work on, what they say, and then ultimately, we'll have a better chance of approaching Krishna this way. We'll get some realizations, and Krishna may even himself appear to us when we've fully purified. Somehow or other, it's Bhaktivinoda Thakur is explaining that yes, if you chant nicely, in a few days' time you can clear through the anartha nivritti stage. In a few days. I've been chanting more than a few days, that's for sure. But the anartha nivritti stage, you have to have very, very potent sadhu sangha to shake you up nicely. But if we really, also we have to have the desire. If we really want to desire to overcome these anarthas, it said in only a few days' time of sincerely chanting, you can be free. But, I know I haven't done it yet. I haven't taken, whatever those few days are, maybe I don't know if they have retreats, maybe they can do it in 4 days we'll get you all rid of anarthas. We should all invest. I'd pay millions of dollars for that. That would be wonderful. So, but yeah, this is Bhaktivinoda Thakur's claim. So anyhow, Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, thank you guys for tolerating. Today we're going to Green Lakes for Harina, and hopefully we can chant some Namabas there, and some people can get benefited